So there is the Independent, a wraparound world at their feet is Johnny Sexton smiling through the Guard of Honour given by the All Blacks on the front when Ireland beat the All Blacks is the picture of Sexton as well, where he's just tackled somebody into touch. I think there's about 5 minutes left to go in the game, and it is a great picture. He's absolutely manic intensity, I think, in the words of Paul O'Connell. Also a wraparound on the Irish Times sports section there. So touchdown to history. It's the overhead camera of Jacob Stockdale sliding in after one of the greatest moves in the history of Irish rugby. Our first win in Twickenham was it 04? Is it 04 we go to Twickenham and win? And Gervin Dempsey scores, and it's a beautiful, clearly pre-programmed move, like the absolute apex of Eddie O'Sullivan's career. Like, this was right up there with that. Like, that, in terms of moments in Irish rugby, is winning away at Twickenham against the defending World Cup champions. That was pretty special. This is exactly of the same magnitude. But the bit where Bundy just cuts back and, hang on, what's going on here? What are they doing? And then for Stockdale to execute from that point a perfectly weighted kick that bounces just to right, that gives him enough time just to sneak between the two, that he's got enough power, momentum and size to slide over even though he's actually been tackled.
Yeah.
It's ludicrous. It's a ludicrous piece of skill.
It really is. And athleticism, and just seeing Stockdale outrun a number of All Blacks to get that ball and touch it down properly was just fantastic. It was, I don't know, like you talk about that Bundy move there, I didn't even quite realise what he had done, and Sexton was involved in the build-up as well, until Andy Dunn and Malcolm O'Kelly were sitting in here yesterday and describing exactly the minute detail that Joe Schmidt would have had to go to actually get that move off, and the amount of practice and the amount of time at a training ground that would have gone in. And it is just that level of attention to detail allied with the beast that is Jacob Stockdale and his capabilities of executing something like that, which just makes this such an exhilarating team to watch.
Yeah. Stockdale, remember, like, nowhere near this Ireland team effectively a year ago. Like, people are like, oh, he might be good. Might get a run here and there. 12 tries, 14 games, thanks very much. Record-breaking pace at the moment. So the Times Ireland edition here. Family key in Schmidt, future call. Can't really have nice things last for too long in Ireland, can we? It's like immediately we need to start worrying the anxiety of who will be the next Ireland coach after Joe Schmidt leaves, after the World Cup. You know, after he's won the World Cup first, obviously. Amazing moment pre-game where Steve Hansen walks up and gives an envelope to Joe Schmidt.
Yeah, 750 quid.
Yeah, for tickets. It's like the two rugby unions, maybe, you know, like, no. Somewhere along the way, something has happened where, come on, give the manager of the opposition some tickets.
Yeah, no.
Or let New Zealand Rugby Football Union should be paying for that. Like, come on.
Or maybe not. Maybe just keep them out. Maybe just give ourselves every single advantage. Those four dissenting voices against the Irish would have stopped them winning on Saturday night.
And then, sorry, the front is also a rugby picture of the Times Ireland edition, but it's a picture of Bevan Parsons, who's 16, who became Ireland's youngest senior debutant when she played against the full USA team. Ireland were beaten 19-10 in Donnybrook at the weekend. Bevan Parsons, 16, coming off the bench. And Kieran Kennedy has a story in the back of the Times saying that the head coach is not concerned about, it's a step up. I mean, over the last 2 months she's been able to experience a taste of senior women's rugby in our camps. She's not allowed to play in the AIL until she's 18, but she is allowed to play in senior international rugby because they don't have a rule preventing you from playing at 16. Not a great sign for the depth of Irish rugby when we're putting 16-year-olds in to play senior internationals in a sport like rugby where, you know, it's pretty physical. It's possible for significant injury to happen. So you just hope that everything is going to be okay for her. And congratulations to her, obviously. So New Heights, why the world is talking about Irish rugby, pages 2 to 9 in the Examiner. It's a great picture of Peter O'Mahony. O'Mahony generally has been given 10 by everybody. And there's the back page picture is the bench celebrating at full time, and Peter O'Mahony barely able to get out of the seat because he's like completely dead at that stage. Apparently he had a dead leg in the first half, and they were worried at half time, so he kind of had to keep moving at half time to get him back out in the field for the second half.
Yeah, it was a Rambo performance from him, wasn't it? It was just he was like looking for punishment, was taking everything that they could possibly give him, and he was like, nah, it's all fine. The one thing that did finally floor him was that celebration at the end. Who would have thought it? That a knock-on from Brodie Retallick was going to be the final nail in the coffin of Peter O'Mahony's body on Saturday night. It was an absolutely outrageous performance. I wonder if that back row as a unit, if that performance we saw on Saturday night was the best ever back row performance we've seen from an Ireland team.
It's right there, yeah.
When you think about it, all three were absolutely ridiculous.
So when we beat Australia in the World Cup, and we had Stephen Ferris, Sean O'Brien, and Jimmy Heaslip.
That was famously an outstanding night for Irish back rows.
And it's hard. We're picking nits here, but one of those back rows might be slightly ahead of the other one.
Well, let's just say there was no legendary scrum half getting picked up and thrown back 400 yards on Saturday night. But everything bar that came pretty close. And also you had the hit on Retallick. That was Tona really who actually drove him back.
Ryan, yeah. But this All Blacks team better than that Australia team.
True.
No, maybe not. Maybe that Australia team was pretty good. Blank of Ireland. See what they did there? O'Neill's men lack goal-scoring threat, says the Racing Post in Captain Obvious headline of the day. And then Faugheen floored. The machine fails to fire. Stablemate Sharjah sweeps by to land Morgiana.
Onto the tabloids. The back page of the Irish Daily Star this morning is Pressure My Aarhus. O'Neill says he is focused on victory. Excellent stuff from the Irish Daily Star this morning. Tabita morning to you indeed. And IRFU sweat on the Schmidt decision. Back at the Sun this morning is we'll answer Ireland's call. Seamus sure boys in green can scrum good. It's just all the rugby soccer comparisons. It's just like a handful of salt. And just looking for the wound in the Irish football fraternity and just scrubbing it right in deep this morning. That's what this is. I don't see anything wrong with comparisons. People are like, well, we shouldn't be comparing, but maybe we should take a look at something that, where you can achieve excellence with a comparatively smallish pool of players and things like that. So I don't know. Let's try for the greatness the rugby team are producing consistently at the moment. Back page of the Herald is this is all my fault. O'Neill admits pressure on to lift side. It's Denmark against Ireland tonight in the Nations League. Back page of the Mirror then is New Zell. O'Neill's troops energised by Ireland rugby heroes, and skipper Coleman says team are inspired. And don't worry, it's not Go Schmidt. Joe Schmidt has hinted that Ireland's latest triumph over the All Blacks will not affect his pending decision on whether or not to stay. Decision is made, says the back of the Irish Daily Mail. Schmidt knows his future, but is set to make Ireland fans wait for a fortnight. And then a couple of the UK back pages. The Telegraph leads with Harry Kane. World's best Kane fires England to finals as England come from behind to beat Croatia 2-1. And slide and deliver. Kane strikes late to seal spot in Nations League finals. Yeah,
not a bad headline. Slide and deliver at the end for Harry Kane. So a quick look at the Irish news for you before we get to Alan Quinlan. So 3-goal O'Boyle crushes Cross to book final spot. A first half hat-trick for Guidor in the game against Cross. Pretty much put that Ulster semi-final to bed. And cold wind blowing for under fire Republic boss. So yeah, I mean, is it possible this is Martin O'Neill's last game? It's very possible that this is Martin O'Neill's last game, especially because badly, although paying them off might not be something that the FAI have the capability of doing at the moment. Right. No? Yeah, okay. Quickly. Big number one, New Zealand Humility, Republic of Ireland Awards, Napirshig are out, and Dub Hurlers return. News coming through that a bunch of the Dublin Hurlers who haven't been part of the setup for the last couple of years are coming back. It's big news this morning. We'll get to the details of that. Being number one, New Zealand Humility. New Zealand have been pretty humble in defeat. It's been interesting. They were good losers for a group of people who aren't particularly practiced at it. The other one that we wanted to talk about was Dan McDonald's brilliant piece today, where
this is a very important angle.
He's concerned.
Like we've been speaking about ways of caring about this game tonight in Denmark, and there's clearly one angle that has been found, and it'll make you salivate at the prospect of this game, because spare a moment for those people who run the FAI Awards, basically, is what Dan McDonald is saying. It's time to spare thought for the organisers, he says. Tradition dictates that the gongs are handed out before the first game of the following year. The event is sold as a celebration. As it stands, the Abbottstown planners are going to be presented with some difficulty. On the basis of the 8 matches so far, the outstanding candidate for Player of the Year and young player is probably Declan Rice. Not ideal, although could be a good move. It's like, hey Declan, It's us in the FAI here. You've won Young Player of the Year and Player of the Year. The last person to do anything of the sort was Tony Kelly in GEA. It's also a great game. Come here and come and play some hurling with us as well, and put back on that Ireland jersey.
Jack Grealish won Young Player of the Year one time.
He did. Cyrus Christie won Young Player of the Year last year.
27.
Basically. He also talks about the goal of the year is in danger of being sued for false advertising. The Forerunner field at the moment, 4 goals, consists of a Sean Williams dink following an Aaron Ramsey brain freeze, a 1-yard effort from Graham Burke, an Aidan O'Brien header in Poland, for me, goal of the year, and Alan Judge's injury time strike against the USA, which was again kicked off by Rice Invention. So really, Ireland need to produce a worthy man of the match performance tonight that will result in that person becoming Player of the Year, and a goal that's quite good to win Goal of the Year. And
it doesn't have to be quite good. It has to be mediocre.
It has to be mediocre.
Intentional.
Intentional will be good. And then the FAI awards have been saved. So that's the big thing at stake tonight. So thanks to Dan for pointing that out. You've mentioned, we've kind of gone through all the rugby there. We mentioned the Piercing as well, getting knocked out. Ballygunner beating them in the Munster final. The fairy tale year for Limerick comes to an end.
You got the Herald there?
The Herald is going through the hurling story where Mark Schutte is among the names returning to the Dublin panel. You've got it here. It's been reported here by Conor McKeown that he is going to go back in with the hurlers. Of course, Jim Gavin brought him into the Dublin camp last summer, summer 2017. Played a couple of minutes here and there, but he'd certainly be of higher value to the Dublin hurlers. So Matty Kenny, of course, he would have worked with Mark Schutte before club level, getting a pretty good start to the proceedings in Dublin hurling, because do you suddenly then, if they have all the resources available to them, do you put Dublin into that mix of this epic All-Ireland hurling championship awaiting us next summer? It does seem that it's like 7 and 1 and then the rest.
Leinster becomes a bit better. The depth in Leinster would be great.
The Leinster championship this year was pretty good.
Well, the fact that Wexford have suddenly become a team that you can trust to perform to a consistent level over the last couple of years has been brilliant. And obviously 60,000 at the Leinster hurling final was ridiculous a couple of years back. So Darragh O'Connell and Sean Tracy apparently are also going back after a year and 2 away respectively. So add that into Mark Schutte, and all I need now is Conor Callaghan, and suddenly there's like a lot of excitement around the Dublin hurlers.
Does Diarmuid Connolly's link, does that intensify?
I don't think so, now that Pacquiao's gone.
Yeah, true. Like, if they got Con, obviously you'd put them right into that rung, but that's not going to happen. Like, who would leave a team that's going for 5 in a row, especially when you've been like a starter and a stalwart in that team?
Well, when they win 5 in a row, there's nothing left. There are no other kingdoms for them to conquer.
6
at that
in a
point, they all become, why bother? At that point, it's like just numbers. They can all retire.
Well,
we start again.
Insurmountable lead that 6 or 7 in a row would bring.
Tributes for Wishy Fogarty in all the newspapers this morning, and of course on radio and social media over the week. You found the photograph the first time you met Wishy?
Yeah, my mother actually digged it out yesterday. It was, what's that? It is I can't remember if it was before the first game or the replay against Armagh 2000 in the All-Ireland semi-final. I think that's the first time I met Wishy. I don't know, I'd love to actually know where that is. It's somewhere in Dublin. But yeah, the night before the game, always a gentleman. Like, he was, I was saying, like I was actually working yesterday, I was saying that you kind of never knew a time when you didn't know who Wishy Fogarty was. It's just kind of a part of everybody's lives, and it's just such a vital cog in all those great memories, and from '97 particularly onwards. And but like, what a loss he is. He was such a gentleman. Like, we've dealt with him a few times here. We can't claim to have ever been a friend of Wishy or anything. We didn't know him that well, but every time you did deal with him, it felt like he was a friend of yours, because he just had such a great way about him, such great generosity, such a heart of gold. And of course, as a professional, you don't need me to describe what he did. All you need to do is just listen back to some of his stuff yourself. And what a genius, really. Yeah,
great company. Spent a good long chat with him at the PPIs one year, and just like genuinely a lover of sport. Didn't become a broadcaster until he was about 55.
Yeah.
That was what Malky Clerkin was saying in his piece yesterday, or in a piece that was doing the rounds, but also on Twitter he pointed out that he'd been an All-Ireland winner as a footballer at senior level, which I hadn't realised, and a referee. He dished out the first ever yellow card in Gaelic Games history, so that's pretty impressive.
That is a great stat.
also had served with Killarney Legion at every level as player, administrator, and all the team mentor and all that kind of stuff as well. So he died at the age of 77 after an illness. Injury cut short his playing career, became a respected referee, 3 successive All-Ireland football semis in 81, 82 and 83. Obviously, it doesn't help that he's from Kerry in the peak of the boom years, and he's a referee trying to get an All-Ireland final, and bloody hell, Kerry keep qualifying for it every year, so that obviously didn't help. He did referee the Under-21 All-Ireland football final in 1980, so we're going to play out with this today. It's a piece that you can find across all of Off the Ball's channels. In summer 2015, Joe went down and did the paper review and presented the entire show from Killarney, and so before they get into all the stuff from the day in the game, Rishi wanders up and sits down and they have a chat, and it's a bit of glorious radio. Have a listen.
Pretty spectacular. What mountains am I looking at?
Wow, they're way over to your right, Joe. Way to stream right over is Carntool, the highest mountain in Kerry, and coming along then you have the McGillicuddy Reeks all in front of you, all running along in front of you over there, and away over to the left then you have around Rathmore direction, you can see out to Rathmore, called the Paps. So the McGillicuddy Reeks and Carntool all over, stretching away over there. Looking at the town then, you might want to know what you see in front. Yeah. What a spectacular view of greenery. Over to your right is the tall steeple of St. Mary's Cathedral. That's the cathedral that I was married in, that's the cathedral I was baptised in, that's the cathedral that I'll be taken to when I die. Directly in front of you then is the Protestant, St. Mary's Protestant Church, that's the other steeple, and then to your left is the friary, the Franciscan friary, that's the other steeple you see to your left. I was at 10 o'clock mass there this morning, and the priest was welcoming everybody to the Munster final. and you can see Killarney then just in front of you there, and all those houses you see just there were some great footballers came out of there between the Dr. Crokes and the Legion Club.